Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Shannon's Shelf. I am your host, Shannon. And this is my shelf, in case you're wondering, or shelves. But today I'm going to be talking just briefly, I suppose, not in too much detail, about some of Tolkien's other tales. And these are ones that I read just recently. So I actually read Lord of the Rings for the first time this past end of winter, beginning of spring, this year, and it was marvelous. I was a long time admirer of Tolkien, but pretty much experienced it strictly through the films. Almost, I had read The Hobbit a couple of times. I'm actually currently reading The Hobbit again, just by reading it to my children. But I love pretty much everything I read from by Tolkien, but I hadn't read that much ultimately, and I still haven't read the Silmarillion. But today I was just going to talk, I guess, a little bit about four of the books I have read by Tolkien pretty recently, and Christopher Tolkien in many ways as well, who was the proper editor. And those are the three great tales of the First Age, that is Children of Húrin, Beren and Lúthien, and the Fall of Gondolin. And then I also read the Fall of Númenor, and which takes place in the Second Age, of course, if you're not acquainted. And I enjoyed all of them. In fact, I think overall, I would recommend all of them. I think Tolkien is, well, he's very well loved, and I think there probably is the trinity of Tolkien is in many ways the Lord of the Rings, the Hobbit, and the Silmarillion. Now I need to speedily repent, I suppose, for not having read the Silmarillion yet, and I don't have the physical copies for any of the ones I have read or I would be showing you. But either way, as far as which ones were my favorite and how much I enjoyed them, I enjoyed all of them. And again, they're a great way to get more and more acquainted with the world of Middle Earth. And it's a world that I find to be pretty enveloping. Now, none of them really come close to Lord of the Rings, but they're also a lot smaller on scale, and you don't have that many more words to fall in love with these characters and stuff like that. But overall, I think Tolkien's care for the world and his just Tolkien himself comes through. And my favorite one, and I mentioned this in my monthly update a little bit because I read two of them. I read Beren and Lúthien and Children of Húrin in August, and I only finished the Fall of Gondolin and Fall of Númenor this month. I haven't mentioned them in a monthly update yet. But my favorite would have to be the Children of Húrin. And please feel free to let me know which one is your favorite in the comments. If you have a favorite, if you've read these. If not, I would again suggest them. They're all pretty quick, if I'm being honest. And then Children of Húrin was that tragedy, pretty dramatic, and Turin Turambar, although being quite a foolish character, I think you could call him foolish, proud, hubris, or whatever. It's still a great character, great story, very tragic, but I loved the Children of Húrin. It was easily my favorite of all four of them. And then and honestly, like, just other characters too, with Glaurung and Beleg Strongbow, excellent characters. Honestly, just super great. It doesn't read like Lord of the Rings. I think it reads much more like some sort of mythological story. I know people think Lord of the Rings does too, but I think Children of Húrin does that even more. And then my next favorite would probably be the other one I read in August, Beren and Lúthien. So kind of just the love story. Tolkien's supposed to be Beren, right? And his wife's supposed to be Lúthien. And it's kind of odd with, the cats and dogs stuff going on. But very interesting. Kind of wily, maybe is the word I think of. I don't know if anyone else would think that. But I really enjoyed Beren and Lúthien as well. I don't know if it's like a great up there for me, because right now I think that Lord of the Rings, Hobbit probably still second, and then it would probably be the Children of Húrin, and Beren and Lúthien would be my fourth favorite of the Tolkien stuff I've read, but I don't know if I would consider it amazing like I would those first three. I really like the Children of Húrin. Beren and Lúthien was good though. The Fall of Gondolin is the last of the great tales from the First Age. It's probably my least favorite of all of them, and it's not a bad story though, and it is known for being one of his earliest writings. Started writing it in 1917. The book goes over this. I think one of my problems with the Fall of Númenor and Fall of Gondolin is that they seem even more like patched together than the other ones. And Beren and Lúthien is pretty guilty of this as well. but it didn't bother me as much when I was reading it for some reason. Children of Húrin is very much not that way, I would say. But Fall of Gondolin is a very interesting first age story. For some reason, it didn't really bring me in so much. And maybe that's because it was one of his earliest writings. I'm not sure. I might need to reread it if I'm being honest. Let me know if you think I should reread it. But the Fall of Númenor, so this is the outlier because it takes place in the Second Age. I think one reason why I like the Fall of Númenor was a bit more than Fall of Gondolin, despite its patchwork nature or whatever, is because it felt a little bit more familiar to the world of Middle Earth that I'm acquainted with, which is the Third Age, and this is Second Age. Maybe if you're a fan of the Rings of Power TV show, uh, I don't know how many I don't know how many people there are out there that fall in that line, or at least that are fans of Rings of Power and are also big fans of Lord of the Rings themselves. I'm sure that I know there are some people out there, and I haven't watched the new season of the Rings of Power, although I'm very much tempted to, even though it breaks canon pretty heavily. But regardless, it's a good work of fan fiction, right? Maybe that's not what this video is about. But it feels more familiar in that way, and I actually really like Aldarion and Erendis. Like again, Aldarion kind of reminds me of Turin a bit. Not necessarily his character, well, pretty much his nature, his underlying sensibility. And I really liked, so I liked that one, even though it could be kind of frustrating. And it was, I don't know, it just felt so much more interesting. I think again, it was just, I felt like it was more connected to the Third Age Lord of the Rings stuff that I have already been a fan of for so long. Although maybe only a real fan this year, whatever. Not that that matters too much. So if I had to rate them again, just to go over, it'd be Children of Húrin, Beren and Lúthien, Fall of Númenor, and then the Fall of Gondolin. And then there's a couple more books that I haven't read by Tolkien. I'm not sure when I'm gonna get to them. I figured that I should read some more Tolkien, and I did. I am hoping to read some more of other authors. Like I'm gonna try to read Gene Wolfe here soon, who I've never read. Uh, but I've had a hard time this year too. Maybe I'd appreciate the stories more, these four stories, if I hadn't read Lord of the Rings this year. In many ways, I think I'm reading them because I have read Lord of the Rings this year. I'm like, oh, I should keep getting involved in Middle Earth and stuff. But Lord of the Rings was so good that everything else doesn't seem to be as good. I've read some really great books this year, thankfully, but Lord of the Rings is easily the best work of fiction I've read this year. Nothing really even comes close to it. So by comparison, everything else seems a little flat, even the other Tolkien stuff. But either way, let me know how foolish that thought might be. I don't know. I think they were, published posthumously for a reason. Were all of them published? Now I'm drawing a blank. I know some of them. I think all of them were. But yeah. Either way, feel free to like and subscribe as well as comment down below, and then hopefully next time maybe I'll have some more in-depth stuff to say about Tolkien. But I pretty much just wanted to give my thoughts. So hopefully that was good enough for you, and I can, even though my thoughts weren't super in depth, I could still say I would recommend reading them, especially if you like Lord of the Rings. A little bit more Middle Earth doesn't hurt. So there you go. Hope you guys have a next one. I hope you guys have a good one, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.